All right, welcome everybody. This is Dr. Travis Perry. I am here with Derek Notman. I just want to introduce him real fast to everybody who may not know Derek. Derek is a virtual financial advisor. He's a CFP and founder of Connector. It's a virtual advisor system, which is cutting edge lead generation, digital marketing, and practice management, a business in a box system, which empowers financial advisors to dominate in a digital world. Thanks for being on the podcast today and on the live stream with us here, Derek. Thank you.
Yeah, Travis, thanks for having me, man. Good to chat with you again, and appreciate being on here. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Excellent. Well, I know we've talked in the past, and you've actually been on a challenge of mine as a guest, and there's a lot of crisscross that you and I have helping advisors, but we also share this common ground of being an advisor. I was, I'm a recovering financial advisor, but you're still going strong. So tell us a little bit about your journey as an advisor and how that got you into founding Connector.
Yeah, I'll try to summarize best I can. It's a bit of a long, interesting journey, but started as an advisor in 2006. And jumped in both feet into the old traditional way of doing business. Everything from the cold calling and driving around everywhere, nights and weekend appointments, working with anybody and everybody. Ended up having buying a brick and mortar office, had in-house staff. On an interesting note, I actually just closed on selling that entire office building on last Friday. So that's all gone, thank goodness. So I did all that, and then through a number of things that happened, I love to travel. My wife and I love to travel. We travel all over the world. We have a son who's 9 now and going on 16, and we really wanted to focus more on balance. And as most advisors will know, it's really easy to get sucked into this job as an advisor 100% of your time. You're gone, you're missing moments with your family, you're not taking time off and so forth. And through a number of events and things that happened in my life around 2013, it's you know what, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do it. So my motivation, inspiration initially was to build a virtual practice for myself, to find balance, to have that life-work balance that I really, really wanted. And funny thing is it worked really well. And a lot of advisors started asking, well, how do you do all of these things that you do to do this? And I'm like, maybe I can give back to the advisor community. And that's when I created Connector, which is the virtual advisor system at this point, to help and empower other advisors to really just do what everyone wants us to be doing anyways, and to have that virtual or semi-virtual practice, digital marketing, all that good stuff, just so they can enjoy life while also helping their clients and building an amazing business.
I love that we're talking about work-life balance on the Balanced Advisor podcast here. And when we first connected and we found what we had in common there, it's clear to me that what you do is help provide, an added benefit to advisors who are looking for that balance. So let's talk about work-life balance. And as my audience knows, we released the Achieving Balance book, and it's available for pre-order. It's still on there, travispro.com/books, and we'll grab a copy. But we talk all about balance in the book, how to achieve it. Is it achievable? What are the myths? And so I'm not going to focus so much on what we've discovered, but I'm curious, Derek, as I've interviewed over 85 advisors for the book.
Wow.
The research has come out. I actually started interviewing them right as COVID was hitting. March 25th, I think I started my first interviews. And it's been great to talk about pre-COVID, during COVID, now post-COVID, if there ever is such a thing. The endless summer of COVID is what I call it. But I'm curious for our listeners, what is work-life balance for you? Everybody has a different definition. What does that look like? If you could describe it, what is that for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first, I would flip the words: life-work balance. I don't live to work. I work so I can live. So my life has to come first. My life has to be a driver there. So what does that balance mean to me? Well, it means that it's a lot of the little things, which add up to a lot. But like, as a dad, it allows me to be with my son and to do the things that are important to him, whether it's sports or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, where I can actually be with him instead of missing time with him. Because I used to miss dinner time and bedtime a lot when my son was first born because I was working. It means being able to travel with my wife and my son and go wherever we want in the world and have my business not miss a beat. I remember in the early days, I was deathly afraid to go on a vacation because I'm like, what's going to happen with my business? I don't know what's going to happen. I can't deal with it. So quality of life for me is extremely important. As far as we all know, we only have one shot at this thing called life. So why not have it be an amazing life that we're happy with, we're proud of? And I didn't want to, because for a while there, I was, going to bed late because I was tired from working, getting home late, waking up exhausted and doing it all over again. And we tend to adapt to that a little bit and just do it because we think we have to. But you wake up years later and you've got more gray hair, you're tired, you're not really happy, but you don't really know why. And so then you end up start spending money on stuff just to fill a void that you'll never fill because you're not looking at the core of it. So it's just really about having like a meaningful and thoughtful life that you're proud of, that you're happy about, and that you should build your business to support that instead of the other way around. So I could give you a million reasons why, but there's some high level ones for you at least.
No, that's really good. I like this idea of life-work balance, right? I didn't coin the term work-life balance. I don't take offense to that at all. I agree. I think the element there is that the life part is what drives you. And you talk about drivers, you talk about motivation. We've studied motivation a lot with people. As we look at advisors in general, let's just look at the industry. And let's talk about maybe are some of the things that you've seen, because you're obviously seeing what I'm seeing. You're seeing advisors that don't have work-life balance. You and I both have had that experience of waking up going, wait a minute, what are we doing? This is killing me, right? It's causing stress. This is causing all sorts of things that we didn't get into this business to have our lifestyle be this way. What else are you seeing? What are you seeing with other advisors that are really struggling with work-life balance? What is it do you think that's getting in there?
I see it a lot. I see them tired. I see them stressed. I see them financially strapped. And I think initially the allure of this industry is you can make a lot of money. And when I was initially recruited into the business, that's what they focused on. Like, here's how much money you can make. And, especially if you're in your 20s, you're like, wow, like I'm kind of broke. I'm not making a lot of money. I'm just out of college. You're telling me I can make how much? Okay, I'm interested. And then without even really thinking about it, we just jump in, and then we kind of make this mental connection like, well, if I make a lot of money, then I'll be happy. And it's not true. So I still see a lot of advisors struggling with this. And part of it's because the ways that we are taught to work and build our practice are really outdated. We're still taught to cold call. We're still taught to work nights and weekends. We're still taught to drive to appointments all over the place. And we're taught to be seminar, like all these old antiquated things that used to work really well, but the world's changed. So there's this disconnect because the younger advisors coming in is like I would say the younger generations in general in the world we live in are really much more focused on quality of life and being purposeful with what they do. So they come in thinking they can do that in our industry, and then all of a sudden like, wait a minute, you're telling me I have to do what? I have to cold call people from a list? I have to go to these networking events at night? I don't get time off anymore? Like, what? And it's not jiving with this core philosophy of how they really want to live their life. And now like they kind of feel stuck. And they want to help people with their money. They want to be that advisor because they're passionate about it, but they also want to make money and have balance. And they're not sure how to do it because not a lot of people are talking about it, unfortunately.
Really important that you mentioned this. It's kind of this money trap, like the lure of earning a lot of money, and that being the purpose to life, right?
Yeah.
So you and I both know that that's not the purpose to life. We're successful, we have this time. It's always interesting because when I ask people, if you had more time, what would you do with it? Like, that's a big indicator. What would you do with it? And what I'm hearing from you, Derek, is you travel more, you be with your family, and you'd enjoy life because it's not getting any, you're not having any extra time to do that. So yeah, you're right. I mean, this new generation, the next gen that's coming in, is very much focused. Society is very much focused on experience, right? We're in the experience generation. So where do you see the industry going, just as a whole? Where do you see the industry going, and is there a place now so that advisors can have better work-life balance? Do they get rid of these old mentalities of cold calling and driving everywhere? What are your thoughts on
Well, I'll start by saying my crystal ball has never worked. Okay. So I can speculate a little bit on where I think things are going. I think the financial services industry has to listen to two different market segments, because those are what's going to drive the change. One is they have to listen to the consumer. The consumer wants to consume their financial services, advice, and products differently. They don't want people coming to their house at night, weekends. They just don't want it. They don't want to have to go in the car and drive across crazy traffic in town to go to your office. COVID will go away at some point, right? So some of that normalcy will come back, and that's cool. But people the rest of our lives are convenient. The rest of our lives are here, right? The rest of our lives are what we're doing right here, Travis. And so the consumer wants it. So we have to listen to that, because if we don't, the consumer is going to go somewhere else to get things. I would also say we have to listen to the younger advisors coming into the industry. They see their friends working at Google, at Facebook, and all these other tech companies. They see them being able to work remotely. They see old institutions like colleges doing everything virtually now. They see just this major shift of things. So I think that the need and the want to be advisors is never going to go away. It's a very important fabric of our lives, if you will. But the way it's done is going to be different, in my opinion. Now, will virtual or in-person meetings ever go away entirely? No, I don't think so. But I think you're going to see a shift, a migration to mainly virtual, where we will pepper in-person meetings instead of the other way around, where things were mainly in person and we peppered in virtual. And I think COVID just cemented that was okay, that it works, that we can, as consumers and as advisors, actually conduct business this way. And there are so many benefits in doing so.
No, I understand your crystal ball doesn't work for clients. It's not working for me. You need to maybe plug it in a little bit, let it charge before we have this conversation again next time, Derek, so that it'll work better. But I kind of have that same kind of philosophy, that this pendulum of having to be in person with, your advisor, with your client at all times, is swung all the way to the other side, where they kind of have to, right? But maybe it'll swing back a little bit, as you said, maybe there's peppering back in, or at least now advisors, especially big broker dealers, they're now, who were kicking against Zoom calls and all. Now they're like, please, you have to get on there, because it's the only way to do it. I don't see them going back either. I don't see them going back and saying, we're going to cut this.
Nope.
It's just not how innovation works. It isn't. So post-COVID, as you kind of alluded to, this is an opportunity for advisors to really learn how to be virtual. The problem is that most of their management haven't been virtual. Derek, I was doing Adobe Connect. Do you remember Adobe Connect?
Sure, way back when.
Doing Adobe Connect in 2007, reviewing an insurance portfolio in Utah, and they were in Northern California. I had to get like all sorts of special permission to make that happen, just to service this client. And it was like, really slow and pixelated. And I remember being one of those first virtual advisors going, now this is
right.
I fly to California to service this client. This is great. And we could share our screen, and I could do a presentation, and it was beautiful. I've been doing it ever since. But what do you think has to happen for advisors now to keep that balance? Because now Now it's here all the time. Now it's 24/7. Now they pull out their laptop. Now they can work anywhere without boundaries. Is that the key? Is there something else that you've seen as you're setting up your own virtual practice that could be helpful for advisors?
Yeah, you have to be extremely aware and thoughtful about your schedule because it can control your life. And I would say it's actually not that different from the brick and mortar. When I was a brick and mortar advisor, I literally had one of those like paper calendar books for the whole year, right? And that's what I had in front of me when I was cold calling and doing the phone clinics and all that kind of stuff. And my entire calendar was open for client meetings. And that's what took precedence. So my nights and my weekends were always booked with meetings. So I wasn't finding balance then. And on top of having to meet, I had to drive to go to all of these places, right? So it was a real pain. So now that I'm virtual, I've gained some efficiencies. There's no question about it. I've gotten many, many weeks of my time back, but I still have to be thoughtful. So my entire calendar is already blocked out on when I'm done for the day, when I start for the day, what time I blocked off to check email, and so on. And then I stick to that calendar. And just recently I even, went a little bit further with this, and now like Fridays I'm done at noon. That's it. Saturday mornings I'll work to 1 to 2 hours just to finish up little things, get ready for the next week, and then I actually turn my phone and computer off from Saturday morning all the way until Monday morning. Not on at all. And so you have to control that. And we tend to be a little worried, like, oh, I gotta check my messages. What if a client needs something, or what if I missed that sale? Nothing we do is what they do like in an ER. Like we're not, especially on a weekend, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, Travis, control your calendar, because then you're going to find that balance. And if you have it blocked out for family time or just personal time, then that's what you do. And then when you're working, you work hard. You're there 100%. And when you're not working, you're gone 100%.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's all about those boundaries, right? Having the right boundaries to block off the calendar, and then having that self-control. Because isn't that really about self-control?
Totally.
So, controlling your time, managing your time, being the master of your own destiny. And I know that the guys and gals in the industry that can't, hack that, they end up trying to do everything and be everything for everybody. So that's kind of my next question, Derek. I'm curious, you've got clients, right? You got financial advisor clients, you have connector clients, financial advisors that you're helping to be virtual. You turn off your phone on the weekends. That's great. I have an app that it shuts down all of my work calls and texts, and then it automatically opens back Monday morning, and I check to see what I missed, So curious, what do you suggest for advisors? Maybe the first couple of things that come to mind here for advisors who they're not new to this anymore. They've got all this freedom to be virtual, but what do you think might be slowing them down, and what are some tips maybe to keep them productive?
Well, we've got this freedom to be virtual, but they've still got the brick and mortar mindset. So they have to evolve their mindset to say, hey, things are being done differently. You have to evolve. You have to say, okay, I need to stop prospecting. I need to start marketing. I need to control my calendar. I need to keep balance. Otherwise, I'm going to burn out. Because especially virtually, you could work 12, 15-hour days easy. But what good is that doing anybody, right? So I find that you actually are more productive and get more done if you actually have dedicated time off every day. So I think that that's where they have to really just challenge themselves a little bit. And I've said this before, most advisors have ego. And it's okay, because the work we do is difficult. We deal with rejection, and we need to have some ego to get through those tough times. But we have to also be willing to put that ego aside when it comes to evolving and learning and changing some of the things that we may have done for a long time. Just because we've done something for the last 5, 10, 15 years doesn't mean that that's the way things need to be done today. So we have to take the blinders off and say, well, wait a minute, maybe there is a better solution. There's a better way to do things here, and we have to be open to it. That all comes back to the advisor's shoulders. If they're unwilling to evolve, then the other stuff doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah, mindset. Mindset's huge on this one. You delved a little bit into ego mindset. There's a lot to be said about that we could go into. Financial advisors, like we're unique, aren't we? We think we're special, and but I mean, it does take a very interesting kind of personality, someone that can be, outgoing, or it doesn't necessarily have to be outgoing or introverted, but something that can deal with people, right? You've got to be good with people, whether extrovert or introvert, doesn't it? Um, you can't just be a bean counter that looks at spreadsheets all day. You've got to be able to have that component and the relational component. So I think that's what brings up my next question: is that most advisors, they are helpers. They are wanting to help their clients.
Yep.
And I find, at least when I've interviewed a lot of advisors, that, well, I just want to help all my clients. And there's several things I help them to do to try to manage their time better. But what have you seen that's worked for you, Derek, that that you don't feel like you have to constantly 100% of the time have that mindset of got to help everybody 24/7?
Yeah, so I would argue, I bet you some advisors don't want to hear this. I would argue that advisors have that mentality because they don't have a recurring income practice. They are so hand to mouth selling products that do not provide a real sustainable business that they are in this kind of freak out mode where they are constantly running around trying to sell. And I don't know if I can't put all the fault on the advisors for that. The industry's been that way for a very long time. But for me, like the second I made that transition to more of an advisory role, where it was long-term relationships and offering the services that truly people want to pay for on an ongoing basis, it's a major business model change for me. So it takes some of that pressure off, which means now I can focus more on balance again. Also being clear about who you want to work with. If you want to work with everybody, that's really tough. And now you're so scattered that you really literally are running around trying to work with anybody that will talk to you. So going niche was another way for me to really get focused and clear and find balance, because now I'm only working with a very select group of people. I could go on and on and on, Travis. There's a lot of ways that we can do this, but I would say those are some of the things that people should think about.
Yeah, no, I like this, and we might go deeper in a couple of those. Breadth is good, but depth might be better. Because I think it sounds like we had a very similar background. I started off with a broker dealer, with Western Mutual. Usually pretty open about that. And that's their mindset, was go broad. Everybody that can fog a mirror is your client. And if you want to eventually develop a niche, well, yeah, then you can maybe think about it. So just kind of broad really fast, and then starts with all your family and friends, and then all of their referrals, which even then, like this was early 2002, 2003, it wasn't actually the best model. And so I don't know what you did, Derek, and I'd love to hear it, but I actually went out and I decided, forget that model. Not that my family, they didn't care or wouldn't listen to me, but they weren't really who I wanted to work with. And except for maybe my parents, I wanted to help them, but not that I didn't love everybody else, but I wanted to find a niche of people I wanted to work with. So I went out and marketed myself as an advisor to, small business owners in a very specific niche, and began down that road. And I found better specialties and better niche. But what I liked is I would say, here's my niche. And I was okay to bring on a client because I was new and I needed new clients. But they also knew that they were my ideal client.
Yeah.
That was okay. But then I could easily get referrals into that niche.
Sure.
And they were happy to give them because they knew I was doing them a favor by bringing them on. Most likely, we probably wouldn't work together forever. Yeah. So that's kind of my approach, and eventually led me to becoming an advisor, an independent advisor, and be just specializing in that niche before I started helping advisors, with work-life balance. But it sounds, very similar to your experience. I'd love to hear how that worked for you, how you transitioned to advisor.
Yeah, so when I started, I had just moved across the country, so I had no natural market. So but so I didn't have to worry about going through my friends and family. And although like that's what's still taught a lot, like I get it, you got to get paid, and those are easier conversations to start, but it's not a business model. It's a short-term band-aid while you're trying to scale and get your feet on the ground. I get it. But I was taught, like, yeah, go talk to whomever you can, ask for referrals, work those referrals, and just keep chugging along. And I did that. I found a lot of success. I made a lot of money doing it, but I had no life. I was stressed. I was tired. And I felt like I was on that hamster wheel. And I was always told, oh, you got to get a niche. You got to specialize. But no one ever told me how to do it. So it took me a while to really figure it out, to take that journey. And I veered off that path many times because I just didn't have a roadmap at all. But was able to finally figure that out. And it's like this weight is off your shoulders once you figure out who you want to serve. You have to have an abundance mindset. There are more than enough people in this country for every single advisor to run an extremely successful practice. So you don't have to worry about competition. You just need to get in tune with who you are and who you want to serve, and then double down on that. And like the world opens up, you have clarity, it's easier, and you can make more money than you know what to do with.
Love it. Appreciate you sharing that. And that kind of leads me into this next question. You know, you've got some nuggets. You've dropped some great nuggets here for us on the podcast today. And a lot of this has to do with just this mindset. It's mindset of being virtual. And even when we do go back post-COVID, there's going to be virtual, and it's going to be very easy to scale if you can keep your life balanced, not let it overflow. But you talked about having a roadmap, finding a niche. So, you know, advisors who want to know more about that, where's the best place that they can go for that information? How can they contact you, get a hold of you? I mean, we can put that in the podcast notes and everything, but
yeah, I mean,
we can go for now.
You can link to my website, virtualadvisorsystem.com, and that, I mean, that's what it's all about. It's really, you know, helping advisors with all the things that we're talking about today. But even before you do that, or as you're doing that, just take a step back. Do a self-assessment. You don't need me or you to do this. Just sit back for a minute. Are you happy? Are you doing what you want to do? Is your business producing the results that you want? Are you working with the type of people that you want to work with? Do you have balance? Are you able to pursue your passions, be with your family? And if you can't say like astounding yeses to all those questions, then that's probably an indicator that you need to make some changes. And then, you know, that's one of the reasons I created what I have. Like, it's a massive resource to really empower advisors. And I mean, the whole first section of my system is asking them to take that step back and get really clear on what are their hopes, dreams, and goals for the future. You should see some of the comments I am getting from advisors that are going through this. They're in tears because they're so happy that they're finding out where they really need to be focused. They're like, you know what, I lost my way 10 years ago, and now I'm back on track because of what you're teaching. I mean, it's amazing. And so I know I've struck a chord. And sometimes this is the hokey stuff that people don't want to talk, because it's touchy-feely stuff, right? But we're all human beings. We all have feelings. We all have passions and things we want to do in life. So we have to really get in touch with those if we want to build an amazing business, in my humble opinion.
You're right on 100%. And I've read the ebook that's there at the virtualadvisorsystem.com. Wish I had it 15 years ago, but I think I'm supposed to be doing this work. So in a way, I'm kind of glad, right, that I had to go figure this out. But
right,
we don't have to do that anymore. We've got people like you, Derek, who are willing to share their information to those who are wanting to make this change. So if you want to get in touch with Derek, please go to virtualadvisorsystem.com. And if you haven't already, if you want to get a copy of my book, Achieving Balance.
I've got it.
Yeah, Derek's got it. It's still available in pre-order. Go to travisperry.com/book. And there's some great bonus material there to help you right now gain balance. So thank you, Derek, for having this conversation with me, with the audience. I appreciate your time and your generosity to be able to share these golden nuggets with us today. Thanks, Derek.
It's a pleasure, Travis. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, my friend.